Hey everybody, I'm Ann, and I just wanted to come up here real quick and tell you about my experience with prison ministry. So I joined my church probably about 9 years ago, and about a couple of years into that, I went to a meeting. I don't know how I ended up at the prison ministry meeting. Anyway, I ended up there. Then after talking with the ladies a while, I went to a detention center with them. There were a couple of ladies that I was in there with just to observe and everything. I just remember they were doing an excellent job at, like quoting scriptures and different things like that. And I was looking around, or in my head, I was just like, God, I don't know if I can do this. And like, I don't know if this is for me. So I think that going to, I stopped going to the meetings. Yeah, stop going to the meetings, and or maybe like the next meeting I stopped going to. And like eventually went back. No, I went to Bible study maybe some weeks later. And if you ever been in church and you've heard like the pastor preach something, and like that word specifically for you, or you feel like it's for you, well, anyway, he kind of taught on how God sees us versus how we see ourselves. And I just remember him saying, how dare you not think you're good enough. And I somehow knew that that message was for me, for me, for me. And I'm really glad that I ended up going back to the prison ministry after that, because that was something that really grew me, um, as a person and in my faith. And so started working with the kids. We were there probably about 4.5, 5 years before COVID kind of shut everything down. But I just remember really loving to work with the kids. We went there a couple of times a month, just kind of alternating between different parts of the facility. And it was just like an amazing experience. I was also a school counselor for 10 years until I recently stopped to, do the nonprofit thing. But just working with kids in that capacity, just wanted to do something more within the community. I knew that it was time. It been 10 years. It was time for a change. But yeah, just going back to the prison ministry, um, I now I just don't see myself doing anything other than working with kids who are inside the detention centers, or out, are re-entering society. I also wanted to do a diversion program, so eventually I'll just be in all parts of what the youth encounter with the justice system. So I was reading, what was I reading recently I was reading the book of Exodus. And usually I am a very shy person, and I just kind of like to chill. And I just remember one of the things that stood out to me. Again, I knew God was speaking to me about it, and it was how in the book of Exodus, how he calls Moses to go and free the Israelites from the Pharaoh. And Moses was like, no, send somebody else. Like, I can't even speak well, like, God, you got to send somebody else. And so that's kind of how I felt, at that time, going back and thinking about that. And it's just been, a great transformation. I just can't wait to get started, with working with the youth out in the community versus the public school system. I know it's going to be, great.